Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Just ahead of Steve Peters, Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox, JJ from Fiji. If the Canucks lose in the first round, the Canucks should seriously look at Petey for Barzell in the offseason. Reunite Petey and Bo Horvat, maybe.
Yeah, I see that happening, not.
But that's the thinking out there, the panic out there.
Why would you trade the guy you just signed him? Like, that's got to be a dumb text. Why would you trade him? You just signed him for, 8 years, and you think they're even thinking of, come on, wake up.
I'll tell you what. I could go on. We got Steve waiting.
You can't trade him. You think the Islanders want him?
A lot of people would love to see Matt Barzell back home in the Vancouver area.
Well, hey, Donnie, if you're sitting there telling us Pettersson's horrible, he's horrible. Do you think the Islanders want him for 8 years?
Steve Peters joins us now from PHNX Sports in Arizona. Canucks at Arizona tonight, trying to redeem themselves after what happened last night in Vegas. Steve, thanks for doing this, sir. Again, how are you?
I'm doing really well here. Nice and sunny and warm here in Arizona.
Oh, okay. Listen, Steve,
I have to start that way.
It's sunny here as well. It's plus
cold.
1, but it is sunny here. Last time I checked in,
cold, still cold.
Yeah. Hey, Rick Tocchet, Steve, you covered him for the 3 or 4 years he was down there as a head coach. How was he to deal with under some pretty tough circumstances?
You know, it's interesting because I worked for the team for 20 years. So I had Rick Tocchet as a player and assistant coach, and I was his video coach when he was the head coach here.
Wow.
The one thing about Rick Tocchet is people don't give him credit as a really good X's and O's guy. And I think behind the scenes, he's a guy that's always trying to improve. He's looking at other teams. He's trying to see what fits for his team. And I think you see him on the bench and you just think he's an emotional leader that leads through motivation, and he's kind of that tough guy. It's not who he is. I mean, he's a guy that's exceptional at X's and O's, and I think you're seeing it in Vancouver, how well this team defends and how well they play between the blue lines. This team knows what they're supposed to do. The advantage he has here versus what he had in Tampa and in Arizona is he's got really good players. And that's the first time in his coaching career where he's been able to put out the kind of players he has now. And by the way, you're talking about Pettersson. Yeah, if you want to get rid of him, I think, and he likes to golf, we'll take him down here in Arizona.
Yeah. Well, what goes through your mind when you see people or hear about people in Vancouver panicking and criticizing their team, given what the Coyotes have gone through this season and several seasons back?
You know, it's one thing here in Arizona. We just don't deal with the media here as the Arizona Coyotes. You just don't. Like, they don't recognize you when you're out to dinner. I thought to talk about that the other day, and he's a guy that doesn't shy away. He's going out to restaurants. He's not going to sit in his house. Travis Green is a guy that said when it wasn't going well, he'd hide out at home, but Tuck's going out. And he's going to tell you what he thinks. And you guys know as the media members, he's really good at telling you what's on his mind. And I think that, you know, in Arizona, we're lucky, I guess, in a way, but you don't have that pressure. And to watch Vancouver fans right now panicking over a team that's competing for a President's Trophy, it's crazy. The one thing about Vancouver, they can do it all. They can play physical. They can play 1-0. They can play 8-7. They can do everything. So, you know, I know they're not playoff tested, and there is a level of concern there, but they are able to win in a lot of different ways. So if I'm a Vancouver fan, I'm excited going into this playoff season.
Steve, let's when it comes to Coyotes, let's start that conversation with something positive. Josh Doan's first 3 NHL games, Shane Doan's son, 2 goals, 3 assists, a second-round pick. What has he shown you?
You know, it's interesting because I've watched Josh since he was a little kid, and at every stage I said he can't play. He's not going to play in juniors. He's not going to be able to compete in college. He won't be able to compete at an American League level. I thought he was too small at one point. He was too slow at another point. But every time he's challenged, he blows through the brick wall. And I tell you what, Josh Doan competes well. He skates well, and he's extremely smart. He's a guy that's going to be above the puck all the time. If you're supposed to dump it, He'll dump it. He is fun to watch, and 5 points in 3 games. Now, he's better than his dad, who had 4 points in his first 3 games. So we remind Shane of that often. He's a kid that you're going to look for in the future. I mean, he's going to be a leader. I don't think he's got the explosive skill like a Logan Cooley or a Dylan Guenther for some of the young guns here. But he's a guy that's going to be in that top 6. I mean, I can see him second line, and he's going to produce, and he's going to be a guy you can throw it in all situations. And for a Vancouver Canuck fan that doesn't know much about the Coyotes, he's one guy to keep your eye on. Number 91. He's going to make things happen around the blue paint, and he's a fun player to watch.
Steve, I always sometimes think your fan base in Arizona did something to piss off the hockey gods. 11th time in the past 12 years, no playoffs, numerous owners, arena deals, all this stuff. How long do you think? Because if you've been out of the playoffs for 11 years, that's a lot of high draft picks that you should have turned it around by now. How long before you think they can get back to the postseason?
You're right. And you look at some of the draft mistakes they had with John Chaika losing a first-round pick with some issues that they had there. That was costly. And you look at a Dylan Strome that didn't pan out here in Arizona the way they had hoped to, and Kyle Turris didn't pan out here the way they had hoped to. The drafts haven't gone well for Arizona until Bill Armstrong took over. And now you're with the players we mentioned. I don't know if you've Dylan Guenther. We might have picked up in an Oliver Ekman-Larsson trade, but that's another story. But Dylan Guenther, Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, and you're looking at they have some really strong players in the KHL right now, and Simishev and Daniel Boot. It's coming. Maverick Lamoureux, Connor Geeky. The young guys are finally coming in their pipeline. Unfortunately, it's not next year. And it's probably not the year after for a Coyotes fan. And Coyotes fans have heard until next year, as you've said, almost for 20 years now. Yeah. And I know they had the blip on the radar in 2012 where they made it to the Western Finals. But this is a team that doesn't make the playoffs. And you're right. It's now or never. Like the new arena has to happen. That doesn't happen, this team will not be here. And you've got to get the arena built. Luckily for Coyotes fans, the timing of the new building with all of these guys coming through the pipeline should be about the same time. So we're saying keep hang in there till 27, 28, and maybe we'll see the playoffs then.
Steve, do you sometimes think, though, why the NHL, they've moved other teams. They've moved them. Do you sometimes think why they always keep giving the Coyotes not 2, not 3, not 4, like 10 chances? Like, what is it about that market the NHL won't leave?
Yeah, it's funny. Gary Bettman has had a commitment to this market since the Coyotes have moved here, and I tell you what, they should thank their lucky stars. He does, because they've been ripe for relocation several times. I mean, it was minutes away from moving to Portland when Wayne Gretzky saved the team with a last minute part ownership, and then when Winnipeg moved from Atlanta, Arizona was right there, and it was close. The discussions right now are Salt Lake City, and it's real. And they're ready, and this is it for Arizona. There are no more kicks at the can. They build a building now, or this team is leaving. And I think it's too bad, because this fan base is here, and I think the one reason they've got so many opportunities is because it's a huge TV market in the Southwest in the United States. And so I think that's what bought them the time, but this is it. Their 9 lives are over. The auction is scheduled for this summer. And if they don't get this new land to build a building on, I think this team will be gone.
Yeah, such a great area. Okay, Steve, update us about that. You've mentioned it, but you mentioned the auction, the land, 27, 28. Where are we with something new for the Coyotes building-wise?
They're just waiting for the state land board to announce the auction date. We're anticipating that as soon as today and as late as Friday. And the auction is scheduled for the middle of June. And we have not heard of any other bidders at this time. 80% of the auctions that the state puts up, land that they put up for auction, has one bidder. Has one bidder. So we're hopeful that it's just Alex Morello. And then it's up to him. He's constantly said he has the money. He's constantly said he's a billionaire. Well, now is his time to prove it. So pull out the checkbook, win the auction, and then this is all over. And then the arena, they're anticipating opening in the season 27-28. So that means 3 more years at Mullet Arena.
And that's it. That's in Tempe, is it?
Yeah, and that's I tell you what, every and I tell you what, if you guys haven't had the opportunity to see it, it's 5,000 seats, and it is probably a practice rink there in the Vancouver metro area. But if you want to see the Vancouver Canucks from 13 rows away,
I'd love it.
It is fantastic place to watch a game.
Okay, one more note of positivity here.
Yes.
Josh Doan played his minor hockey, from what I understand, in Arizona, and every level right up to the National Hockey League. Austin Matthews, Tage Thompson, NHL players from Arizona is a thing. How much has hockey grown there? How much has minor hockey grown in that part of the world?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think that's the effect of the Coyotes. And when you see a lot of these players retire here, and then their kids play here, and then not only that, they begin coaching. I mean, we've got Derek Morris, Michael Grabner, Tyson Nash, all of these guys become coaches in the minor hockey program, and I think that really helps. And then once you get one player there, and now it's the Austin Matthews effect, and guys see, we can do it from here. And you look at the two top players on the Toronto Maple Leafs, well, maybe not the top, but Matty Nyes is in there. We got Matty Nyes and Austin Matthews, both from Arizona. By the way, if they want to return, we'd be glad to help them look for real estate to play here in Arizona.
We could go on and on. Steve, this has just been fabulous. Thanks so much for this.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime.